Welcome back to Yoakum Arts. My name is Matt, and today I'm just making a few mugs and decided to bring you along with me. So these are the mugs that I'm working on making. It's a pretty simple shape, just a basic cylinder that goes in a little bit from the bottom with this little flare, and then I get the foot kind of flared up and rolled around a little bit. But I really like it. I think it's a good size for just a good old coffee mug or hot chocolate or whatever. So yeah, that's what I'm making. Okay, so I've got my clay here. It's about 1 pound 2 ounces for these style mugs, and I'm just gonna set the clay in the center of the wheel or close to, and then just push down just to help it really stick to the wheel head. Then as I'm spinning, the first part of centering, I'm mostly giving it, you can see my hands are moving around a lot because I'm mostly giving it downward pressure to really attach it to the wheel head, so that way it doesn't become unstuck and fly off as I'm pulling. Now I'm going to work on applying pressure from the outsides using these fingers and then the heel of my left hand. I'm going to use that to cone up. Do that again just to make sure. Nice and centered right there. And then center down. Now I'm just holding it just to make sure that it's nice and centered before I start opening it up. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now I'm gonna open up the center, get down to the base thickness that I'm looking for. Add a little bit more water in there, and then supporting my thumb with these two fingers, I'm going to open it up. And I'm opening it wider than I need because as I start to pull, I'm going to be adding pressure from the outside, so the base is going to get a little bit more narrow. However, I do want these mugs to have a wider base, so that's also why I tend to open them a little wider. Now I'm just compressing the bottom so I don't get any S cracks, and make sure the bottom is nice and even, consistent. Add some water, first pull. See, my first pull, I didn't do much with my right hand. It's more just a support. My left hand, I was using my middle and ring finger and my thumb. It's kind of like a claw. And I just go like that and just slowly work up and in towards the middle. You can see it's like a little volcano here. So now as I start pulling, I'm really just going to be pulling this straight up, and it'll open up into a nice even cylinder. Water. Alright. Now as I keep pulling, because I want these mugs to come kind of in a little bit towards the top, I'm going to keep that in mind, especially as I'm starting my pull at the bottom. I want to come in and then gradually transition to just pulling straight up. again. You might notice when I start my pulls, I kind of pause. That's because, maybe I can exaggerate it. Yeah, there. So you can see how there's a little bit extra of a bellied out down here. That's where I'm pushing out from the inside. And I'm creating that ledge, and then I'm finding that ledge with my outside hand. And then that's where I'm actually catching the clay and pulling it upwards. About as tall as I want it. One more good pull. So I make these mugs 14 centimeters tall and 9 centimeters wide at the lip. So you can see how close I am. 13 and a half. All right, so I got a little bit more. I can do that. Probably one more pull. And especially at this point, I'm really trying to get the shape how I want it as I'm doing my final 1 or 2 pulls. Keeping it nice and wide at the bottom and kind of going in a bit. So we should have our height there. Yep. So we got the height. Now we just need to open it up a little bit more. So for this pull, I'm not really trying to pull up. I'm more just trying to even it out and refine the shape while also making sure the rim is as wide as I want it. Looks pretty good. A little bit more. Perfect. Now I'm going to use my sponge just to get the extra water out of the bottom, because you don't want that to sit when you're done throwing. You don't want all the extra water at the bottom because it'll really slow down the drying process, especially for like the bottom half of the mug, and then that can lead to a lot of cracks and just a lot of problems. So just get the extra water out of your mug and you're good. I'm gonna use my rib now. This is just to make sure I've got a nice smooth curve to these mugs, and it's also pulling all the extra slip off of the wall, which will make it easier to lift off the wheel. And then, so I have this little ridge here. I actually flip my rib around and I use this rounded edge right here. I just push that in and kind of match the clay to that curve. Right there, that's a pretty good looking mug, I think. A little tinkered or something. And then before I finish it off and cut it off, I always double check that I have the right measurement. Now I'm going to do the kind of rolled up foot on these. So I dip my rib in the water, and then I'm going to keep it pretty almost parallel, but just a little angled. I'm just going to lightly get in there and slowly angle it up using my left hand just to smooth out that clay. Yeah. I don't know how well you can see, but so I have my rib like that in the at the base of the mug, and then I'm just slowly twisting it up like that just to lift the clay a little bit. I just grab my sponge just to clean it up and get some of the extra slip off the wheel. And then the final step before cutting it off is I use this chamois leather, and that's just going to help really smooth out the rim, and it'll make sure there's no like if your clay has grog or any sort of grit in it, using the chamois leather helps smooth this out, so that way the whole rim is nice and smooth. Because when you want people to drink out of your mug, you don't want it to be uncomfortable. You want your mug rim to be nice and smooth and rounded. At least I do. Now, keep the wheel spinning as I cut it off. Pull the wire tight, and then just straight through. And then I'm gonna clean off my hands best I can. If I had a towel handy, I would dry them off. You don't need to. Just as long as you get most of the extra water and slip off of your hands, you're good. And then get as much surface area in contact with the clay and just pop it off. On my wear board. And yeah. So now I'm gonna do one more, probably a time lapse, just something fun to watch. And then we'll wrap up this video. Alright, so here's the mugs I just made. These three right here. This was the fourth one, but it didn't turn out. I'll add a little, I guess, blooper reel at the end of this video, but I think those mugs turned out pretty well. And even though the bottoms of them aren't, like, they're not quite perfect, I'm still learning and practicing on making like a consistent line of mugs, I guess. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to see more of me making pottery and talking through it, feel free to subscribe and check out my Instagram at yokamarts, my website, yokamarts.com. And until next time, bye. Pulling from the outside. Let's get a little more water. Let's do that. And slow the wheel down a little bit too. Oh, look at that.